Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session on supporting and attracting fintech talent in Singapore. In the wake of COVID 19, new opportunities are arising for fintechs and other industries, and we are pleased to have an esteemed panel of guests today to share their thoughts with us. To start off, I would like to invite Mr. Patrick Tay, Assistant Secretary General of NTUC and Member of Parliament. Mr. Tay, please.
Hi, a very good evening, or should I say good afternoon to all of you who have been tuning in since the start of this morning's Singapore FinTech Festival. And here we are, this evening for 1 hour in an engaging session, not just for me to open this 1 hour long session, but also shortly we have Wani from PwC sharing a bit about the FinTech Talent Report and Survey. And of course, later on, we have a conversation with President SFA Hock Lai, as well as my colleague Vicky from E2I as well. And later on, we'll have a conversation and a bit of sharing by Wani. But before that, I thought to use this opportunity in the next couple of minutes to give everyone a background on what's happening in this space in the last year or so, and as well as moving forward in 2021. I think in 2020, all of us know COVID-19 has kept many of us busy, or should I say busy at home. We work from home and all sorts of remote working arrangements. And of course, the financial sector has seen its own share of ups and downs. As you know, financial sector is rather big. It includes not just banks, insurance companies, asset management, but also include many of our companies in the fintech ecosystem. As you know, this has been a very big space that we are looking at. In fact, just a couple of years back, when we launched the financial sector industry transformation map. I think the fintech sector is one sector where we see a lot of potential, both in terms of jobs growth and of course opportunities for each and every one of us. And I'm glad to share that in this year, yes, we have been affected in more ways than one. You will hear a bit more about how the sector has been and expectations from fintech companies and fintech hirers I have been thinking about and are looking forward to. But I think more importantly, I think in the last 9 to 10 months, we have seen the entire financial sector, well, in a way, some of the transformation efforts accelerated. At the same time, also in various ways impacted. Both employers, businesses, fintech companies, both big and small, startups as well as the workforce in the financial sector, including the fintech sector. So I think you have seen various reports coming up a week or so earlier. MD Ravi Menon from MAS did share in the Growing Timber live webinar session about the various opportunities in the financial sector. And today in the FinTech Talent Survey report, we will get Wani to share a bit shortly on what's the outlook like for the tech sector and the fintech ecosystem and space. But I must say it's been a roller coaster or tough 9-10 months. As you know, just last week, Ministry of Manpower released sort of an estimate of the employment outlook for the past and moving ahead. And of course, we just had the third quarter advanced figures being fleshed out by Ministry of Manpower. And we do see unemployment creeping up. In fact, retrenchments, if you look at the retrenchments on the whole, the first half of the year, something like 11,000 now. The numbers are like something like 11,000, which is more than the 10,800 we saw in the entire of 2019. So definitely a difficult year in terms of layoffs, in terms of crushing or should I say dismal news in terms of more companies going insolvent and facing cash flow issues. But we also see a silver lining in the cloud. Yes, with digitalization, I think in the financial sector, we are quite fortunate because in the past couple of years, we've been really, powering in this space and the digitalization drive, not just for the financial sector, but also in terms of our fintech space. We've been growing leaps and bounds in the past couple of years. And this year, we continue to grow and we also see opportunities. And therefore, yes, the various sectors have been affected, but I think the financial sector is still holding the line and holding ground. We hope we can continue to hold the ground. And just last Friday evening, you have heard MAS shared on the award of the digital banking license, or should I say digital challenger banks. and that will present some new opportunities. I thought that is a kind of a piece of good news over the weekend, as we also hear the various consortiums that the digital bank licenses share on the potential job opportunities and their hiring, their potential hiring in the coming weeks and months as they prepare to set up shop, or should I say, roll out their various consortium. So I think with that as a backdrop, on the whole, 2020 has been a challenging year for the labor market. We will continue to see a soft labor market. I believe the labor market statistics for the quarter as well as the fourth quarter will be out. But basically, in my interactions on the ground, there are various challenges faced by all. Yes, although last week they said the non-PMET roles face higher unemployment than the PMET roles, but I think on the whole, there's generally a softer labor market, a tighter one as well. At the same time, also varied opportunities in different sectors. But it also means that a few things. Firstly, because of the digital bank licenses, and of course, what we are hearing from the various fintech players and the survey report, which we are launching today, and which you'll get view of it and some sharing of it by Wani shortly, that there are actually opportunities for many of you out there, local workers in this space. I mean, both with deep tech experience, at the same time also with domain expertise, but having a passion or being open to getting on the bandwagon in this fintech space. So on the whole, difficult year. I think moving into 2021, yes, we are in, from a health point of view, we are a bit more safer and more secure. But I think we are only as strong as the weakest link. What we are seeing in the region and globally, I mean, you've been reading reports on what's happening in the United States, other parts of the world, is indeed a challenge. And therefore, it augurs well for us to stay ready, relevant, and resilient, particularly during this time and space. And I really hope in 2021 that we will see this continued growth. I can't say for all sectors, but at least for the financial sector, particularly the fintech space, we do see a lot of opportunities, also fueled by the acceleration of digitalization, various payment services, and our so-called low-touch economy, where there's a lot more e-commerce, e-transactions, and e-payments going on in and around us, not just in Singapore, but in the region and globally. So I think it's exciting times with the digital challenger banks, and of course, a very, very slightly more positive outlook in the financial sector, in particularly the fintech space in the coming year. So on that note, I said we officially launched this Fintech Talent Survey Report 2020. It's a joint effort by Singapore Fintech Association, the Banking and Financial Services Union, as well as PwC. I think it's a great effort to provide us a snapshot and an overview of how this sector is like, the expectation and the overall feel from the various players in this sector. And on that note, I would like to thank everyone who has been involved in more ways than one in contributing to the survey findings and the report, and for organizing today's session. Thank you very much. Out to you, Wani.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Patrick. Hi, everyone. Wani here. I'm the fintech leader from PwC. Try to share myself. My colleagues, if you can't see the screen, do let me know. So as what Patrick has actually shared with us earlier, a lot of our survey respondents are actually have echoed what Patrick mentioned, and the results actually are very consistent with what we have shared. Can I just check whether you all can still hear me?
Can hear you, but can't see the screen.
Yeah, my screen is frozen.
In fact, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think everyone's video appears to have completely shut off.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I can see Patrick. Yes, it appears that everyone else's videos have unfortunately been shut off completely.
Yeah, I think more importantly is that what is that can be shown. Yeah, I think that's more important.
Yeah, Wani, could you?
Can you all hear me? You can hear me, right? My
Yes,
screen,
you can.
my screen is frozen right now. I probably have to kill the app and come back again.
Sure, no problem.
Hold on. Can see you now, Wani.
Yeah, can see your screen now.
Okay, hi. I will try again. You can see my screen, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank God. Okay, so just repeat just hi, good morning or good evening, everyone. Fintech leader from PwC Singapore here, Wani. Just wanted to take you through some key highlights from our talent survey 2020. A lot of the results that we have received from our respondents actually echo what Patrick just mentioned. And so I just want to share a little bit of our results. Not everything. Feel free to download our report. But more importantly, after this, I'll be moderating a panel where we have our esteemed panelists to share with us a bit more about what we see in the fintech talent industry. So with that, just some key findings. I've just highlighted 4 key ones. I'll just go through. First one, majority of fintechs, we see them as being actually very optimistic about growth prospects over the next 3 to 5 years. While we see challenges as a whole in Singapore and globally, I do think, as what Patrick mentioned, it's in the financial services, specifically fintech industry, they still continue to see new opportunities emerging from post-pandemic world. Again, also something that Patrick mentioned, digital bank as announced last Friday, very exciting. We fintechs do see digital banks, the launches as key to boosting local talent. While there's going to be competition to hire, but we do think that it will attract a lot of talent into the Singapore pool as well. The third point, we see that most of the fintechs are actually planning to hire more people in the coming month. To support their expansion plan, and they are actually gradually shifting towards hiring local talent. I'll show you the stats shortly after this. Last but not least, we see that we continue to ask fintechs where are they likely to hire, when they want to hire, and most of them do like to draw on their own personal networks and connection, in addition to job portals. So with the next one, just a quick comparative with 2019, which is the similar report that we have done together with SFA. In terms of composition of the respondents that we have received, we do see that payment solutions have rose to the top fintech sector, followed by AI, machine learning, and cognitive computing, then InsurTech following. This could be due to the launch of the PSA Payment Services Act in Singapore that have attracted quite a number of fintechs in Singapore. The second part of growth, as I mentioned, we do see that more firms, more fintechs are looking at hiring mostly local talent. We're looking at almost 30% of respondents compared to 10% last year. Last but not least, we do see optimism in this sector. So nearly 94% believe growth and will continue. This growth will continue in the next 3 to 5 years. And in fact, actually, about 80% of them think that the growth will accelerate. These responses actually help us indicate that I think it's going to have a K-shaped recovery in Singapore fintech space. And what this means is some firms are actually recovering faster, emerging stronger from the pandemic. And more importantly, When we looked at, when we asked the fintech respondents, how is the pandemic affecting the fintech industry? Most of them, again, are very optimistic. They feel that it has positive impact, and we do think that partly because pandemic has forced digitalization of organization, which is where fintech are well placed to service industry. On the left-hand side, just one key thing I wanted to note is payment sector was the overwhelming first choice as the sector that is well poised to weather the pandemic. In terms of the expansion of workforce, I mentioned about the local talent, where 30% are mostly looking at the local pool. But in fact, 97%, almost all of fintechs intend to expand their workforce in the next 12 months. And as mentioned earlier, I think a lot of them actually hire through personal connection or recommendation. But there are other resources and pipelines that they actually tap on, which includes on job portals and firms. This is my last slide. Just wanted to share that, in fact, 56% of fintechs, of the respondents indicated that the pandemic has not impacted their expansion plans, and they will continue to expand as planned. And we further asked them about where are they looking into as a strong focus markets. And the key areas are actually, not surprising, mostly looking at APAC and ASEAN. The most common countries highlighted for expansion were Thailand, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, and Indonesia. This indicates that a mix of developed and developing countries are equally attractive to fintechs looking for expansion. So with that, I'm just going to switch back as I'd like to introduce and welcome the panelists to join me for the next round of panel discussion. We have everyone on screen. Okay. I'm just going to assume that everyone is on screen.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Just want to mention, Hoplai and Vicky, right now, your videos are not appearing.
I turn off, I turn on. Is it? Is it working already?
No, currently still not working.
I actually can see myself again.
Is it working already?
I try again. Can you see me?
Unfortunately, no, still cannot see Hoplai and Vicky.
I think we can proceed with the panel without seeing us. Yes.
Yeah, if that helps. I think I tried a few times already. Yeah.
Sure. I think that will work.
Okay. We just have to be agile and adapt to the situation. Yeah. Okay. I think at the back end of the college, if something we can do, yeah, please proceed. But meanwhile, I'll just go on to introduce the panelists. Okay, so we have heard from Mr. Patrick Tay, Executive Secretary of BFSU and Assistant Secretary General NTUC. Maybe I'll come back to you, Patrick, for an introduction later, given they have heard from you. Next up, we heard their voices, but haven't seen their faces. So Mr. Cha Hoplai, President of SFA, Hoplai, do you want to just hi while we hear you?
Hi, I'm still around here. Yeah. We make it an informal session anyway. Yeah, it's a small community.
Sure, and I'm sure most people know, or almost everyone should know Hoplai. Next up, we have Ms. Vicky Wong, Deputy CEO of E2I. Vicky?
Hi, everyone. I guess you can't see me, but I thought that not everyone will really know E2I, so I just thought of giving a very quick intro. The E2I stands for the Employment and Employability Institute, a tripartite initiative of the National Trades Union Congress, or NTUC, in Singapore. It is an empowering network for workers and employers seeking employment and employability solutions. So it serves as a bridge between workers and employers, offering workers with job security through job matching, career guidance and skills upgrading services, and partnering businesses or employers to address their manpower needs through recruitment, training, and job redesign solutions. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Vicky. And we'll hear from you a bit more later as well on the various initiatives. Yeah. With that, maybe I'll just start with Patrick. I know Patrick spoke already, but I haven't really introduced him. Yeah, so Patrick, maybe if you can share with us about NTUC and E2I, and specifically, I think any support that your organizations are actually giving for SME fintechs who actually may not have the competitive edge compared to the larger and more established ones, including the financial institution. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Good to be back on the panel again and addressing each and every one of you. I think just do an introduction. As Wani mentioned, I wear a few hats. Yeah, two important hats that I wear. It's with the Labour Movement, one of the Assistant Secretary Generals. So the Labour Movement has been partnering with many of our tripartite partners. For the benefit of all of you who are tuning in not from Singapore or from other parts of the world, in Singapore, we have a very unique tripartite relationship between employers. In Singapore's case, it's Singapore National Employers Federation, and in the government's case, it's the Ministry of Manpower, and of course, in representing workers is the National Federation of Trade Unions, called the Singapore National Trades Union Congress, NTUC for short. So these are the tripartite partners. I belong to one of the tripartite partner, which is NTUC. And increasingly in Singapore, if you're operating in this space, especially if you're operating in the financial sector space or fintech space, you'll probably be seeing myself and some of our colleagues in a tripartite partnership very, very frequently in more ways than one. Because in Singapore, everything is tripartite. In fact, there's actually a tripartite committee called the Financial Sector Tripartite Committee that has powered many of the efforts that you see in the sector, including funding companies to embark on transformation, digitalization, including for enhancing the skills capabilities of its workers, including placement, employment, and employability support all around. So that's what we've been doing at a national level as well as at the sectoral level. In fact, there are in the financial sector, we have something called the Industry Transformation Map. I thought to introduce that because that's useful for the benefit of those of you who are tuning in for the first time or tuning in outside of Singapore and thinking of setting up shop in Singapore or going to be partnering with some of our Singapore fintechs, that we have a very close working relationship with the tripartite partners in the sector. So in this case, in Singapore, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, otherwise also the newly launched placement arm, or should I say, the enabler, the Institute of Banking and Finance, as well as our Association of Banks Singapore, and in our fintech space, the Singapore Fintech Association, together with a union in the financial sector space called the Banking and Financial Services Union, which is my other hat as Executive Secretary of the Banking and Financial Services Union. So in Singapore, unlike in many parts of the world, we work very, very closely. Of course, my main mandate or raison d'etre is look after the interests and welfare of workers in terms of their employment and employability needs, and that is why we've been working very, very closely, including today's survey report that's been flashed out, very, very encouraging, because that's something which we are very concerned. Many financial sector workers, and of course workers in adjacent sectors, are being impacted in more ways than one. So any glimmer of hope or growth in terms of jobs and new opportunities is something which we always applaud and very welcome. So besides the tripartite partners, we work very, very closely with academia, including with many of the consultancy companies such as Wani's PwC, because we've been doing a lot of work analyzing the sectors and of course the various opportunities, and of course also its challenges as well. How data automation has impacted us, and in more ways than one, how we can leverage and technology to ride the next wave. So I thought useful to share this as a background for the benefit of those of you who are operating outside of Singapore or who are not familiar with the system. Particularly since we are in the midst of Singapore Fintech Festival, I thought to share this. Particularly, I know many of you who are tuning in may be looking at partnering some of our local fintechs or even setting up shop here in Singapore. So I think the climate is right. In fact, in the last 9 months, especially during COVID-19, there have been 5 budgets announced by our government to support, companies, businesses to stay as a going concern, through various schemes such as the job support scheme, to help deeply affected sectors, including sectors that may be facing challenges. So that's been all around support from an employer point of view. But from a worker point of view, there's been funding support on 2 fronts. Firstly, in terms of ensuring they stay employable. So there's a lot of funding in Singapore. We're quite blessed in the sense that we don't have a challenge of lack of monetary resources for skills upgrading and training. I think it's plenty, and there are many options and a whole plethora of different spectrum of training. And it's something which the Singapore Fintech Association, even together with BFSU and our partners, tripartite partners, have been rolling out quite aggressively in not just the last 9 months, but even prior to COVID-19. So we were continuing to do that, and that's continuing to be top of our agenda to drive manpower skills upgrading to ride the next digital wave, or should I say the digital wave has already arrived. Is how to grapple with some of these next normal amidst what we are seeing now. And of course, finally, I just want to touch, besides supporting employers and of course workers in upscaling, there's a lot of support to work with employers in this space, including SFA and the BFSU. We've been rolling out not just training programs, but funding support to support many of our fintech companies, both big and small, including the startups, to be able to navigate the challenges. And I must say truthfully and honestly, the support, particularly in the financial sector space and in the fintech space, has been extremely generous in the last 6 to 9 months, more generous than other sectors, if I may say so. And of course, with support from the various regulators and agencies, I think we are poised to ride the wave. And all I can say is that there are many incentives, including if you are setting up shop in Singapore and looking at hiring workers. There's even just recently announced, just shortly about 2-3 months ago, the Jobs Grow incentive, which if you are hiring locals, you get actually as much as half of their salary support, at least for 6 to 1 year period. So there's some formula behind it. I don't have the exact formula off my fingertips, but very, very generous support for you if you are hiring local workers. So that's all for me for a start.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you in terms of the incentives and the help that's available in our Singapore country and specific to fintech. Yeah, so I often get asked for people who want to come into Singapore, what are there? So the list just goes on and on. It's just a lot of things, a lot of goodies, which is great. And you also mentioned you addressed those people who want to come here to set up shop. So I just wanted to also talk a bit about those who are looking into coming into Singapore. So as we can see from our survey, there was a slight increase in the companies that are headquartered in Singapore compared to previous year. I wanted to also touch on and discuss maybe with Hotline, what do you think are the contributing factors to fintech companies coming to set up main office or head office here in Singapore? And are there any areas that you think we can continue to build on to attract the fintech investment into Singapore?
Yeah, I think the conditions that attract companies to set up based in Singapore, which Singapore currently houses about 40% of all the fintech companies in ASEAN. So things like low taxation, very strong regulatory and legal environment. So there's a lot of clarity when you set up a business. And then, of course, Singapore is like one of the world's easiest to do business country. So these are good conditions, but in particular for fintech, being one of the top international financial center, and also with a very well-educated workforce, you'll be able to get many of your professional talents you need to run the regional HQ in Singapore. But of course, there's one area that I think we need a lot of improvement, which is the tech talent part. But other than tech talent, Singapore has all the professionals you need to run your regional HQ. And then, of course, I think we have the Monetary Authority of Singapore that is driving fintech strategy for Singapore. And then I think it's well known that MAS is very strong in this aspect. And I think to the envy of many of my foreign friends is also that Singapore, not only you have a strong government agency leading fintech, but we also have a very strong grassroots movement, including associations like Singapore Fintech Association. For example, as for SFA, we have more than 850 corporate members. So in a country whereby there are about 1,000 fintech companies, about 80% of, or 4 out of every 5 fintech firms are our members. And then there's a reason for that, because we do provide a lot of support for our members, whether is it helping them to internationalize. For example, in 2019, we organized actually 7 overseas trade missions. Not only that, we actively help them to connect with the region, because Singapore is a very small market. 80% of our members operate beyond Singapore. So for Singapore Fintech Association, over the last 4 years, we have built up 60 international partnerships in 40 countries. So we are in many places, well connected to support your growth out of Singapore. And then I think the survey supports many of what I've said. And if you look at what happened because of COVID, right, there is certainly, what we are seeing is that there is a flight to safety, and Singapore is a natural safe harbor. And then because of all these things, in a way, we are now fast becoming the place for digital economy. So over the last few weeks, you see news from new economy organizations like ByteDance, like Tencent, ready to invest billions into Singapore, moving their regional HQ into Singapore. And the last point I want to touch about is that I think over the last 4 years, we managed to become the preferred place to raise venture funding, especially for fintech startups. And by now, you would have heard of the news. Fintech investment for the first 10 months this year already exceeded the whole of last year. And this is particularly encouraging in the year of COVID-19, while overall fintech funding worldwide and regionally has dropped significantly, but Singapore is still up. And that is because of a number of reasons, among which was the streamlining of the VC rules to make it more cost effective to set up shop in Singapore, and coupled by Singapore's deep capital market. So these are the various reasons that make Singapore a very attractive place for people to set up either their first entrepreneurial journey, or for those when they want to expand into the Southeast Asia market. Singapore is the perfect B2C gateway for them to start their journey with. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. In case you don't know, we can see you now online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe hopefully when Vicky speaks, we can see her as well. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, you talk about attracting investments and attracting companies to come set up in Singapore. Maybe let's talk about talent, the humans that are powering these companies. As the survey has shown, fintechs, almost all of them are still looking to hire. And a lot of them, in fact, say they're looking into the local pool. So generally, most of them are looking into the mix of foreign and local pool. But we do see an increase, right, of respondents going specifically more into the local pool. It's an increase between 10% last year to 30% this year. Just wanted to ask, do you think that the increase in the focus on local pool to be a reflection of increased ability of our local talent, our local fintech talent? Because as we started this journey and as we are having a lot of, we have had various discussions, we do think that there are retraining required in Singapore workforce, and also just for our graduates. I think we are also helping to introduce fintech or technology related skill set. So just wanted to see if you think, this is open to all, but maybe we can get Vicky to speak first, whether you think that it's a sign of the upscaling of our talent, or do you think it's just probably just too hard to get a foreign talent into Singapore?
Hi, not sure whether you can see me. I think pertaining to, okay, it's okay, just hear my voice will do. I think pertaining to Wani's questions on whether we see a shift, I think it's not just a temporary blip resulting from COVID. I think over the past 1 year or so, I think the government has pumped in a lot of resources to try to upskill a lot of the local talent here. Apart from before pre-COVID, there's already multiple skills coming up from the different agencies, be it IMDA, be it from the MAS, be it from the Workforce Singapore, etc. All these support schemes and resourcing are used to prepare our talent for all these new upcoming growing sector, such as fintech. So I think it's not resulting just from this temporary blip of the COVID, but I think after this, I think there will be more initiative and resourcing will be put in place to support this entire growth sector. Yeah.
Maybe I can chip in a bit also. I think in a way our fintech industry is maturing, and we start seeing more mature rounds coming to Singapore, whether it's Series B or Series C. So a lot of these fintech companies, ultimately they have to expand their headcount. Of course, the various government subsidies help a lot to entice them to recruit the locals. And then over the last few years, I think there have been a lot of reskilling and upskilling. And then and just this year, there's quite a number of SG United training and skills programs that provide even more training opportunities to the local. So I think this coupled by the rise of digital banks, right, means that people will need to recruit a lot more people, and then naturally they will consider more locals. And then, for example, I mean, last Friday we saw that Grab Singtel consortium, after receiving their digital banking license, right, they already announced they are ready to hire 200. Easily, the other consortium will be looking at between 100 to 200 new hires. So I think that is a trend that I'm observing. Yeah.
Maybe I just also add on to this. As you know, this year there have been quite a number of announcements by the Ministry of Manpower in leveling the playing field, and of course encouraging fair hiring practices and the various measures at the employment pass level. Well, that to a certain extent is a clear signal of the messaging that we're trying to encourage companies where possible, not just to be fair in the hiring practices, but also to strengthen the Singaporean core. And when I speak to many of our big players, including the financial sector and across the fintech space, I think many of them want to have a core of Singaporean talent for obvious reasons. I think many are aware in Singapore, in terms of abilities, in terms of educational qualifications, competencies. In Singapore, our human capital do stand quite high. If I may quote last year's report, it's actually #1 in terms of human capital, human resource in the world comparative rankings. So I think we have an equipped workforce, and more importantly, I think we have as I shared earlier, the tripartite system where we support industries, workers, and of course companies and businesses who want to grow and strengthen their Singaporean core. I think that's a very key imperative from a national perspective, but at the same time also help fuel some of the hiring across the fintech space. I think essentially many of the companies that set up shop here also want to develop a core of Singaporean talents for obvious reasons. If you want to make your Singapore your Asia Pac or your corporate HQ, you want a core, a reliable, and of course able workforce locally to be able to manage, particularly in the digital space. If I may share another point, is also that many of our local institutes of higher learning, we are also seeing a very sharp uptick in wanting to do data, digital, com science, info systems kinds of programs. So at the entry level, you're seeing more and more people taking out some of these programs. Interestingly, last year the universities were telling me the computer sciences are more popular than law and medicine in more ways than one, because they know that's a growth industry. But at the same time, also a lot of support given. You have heard of the IBF program as well as other programs to help mid-career professionals, managers, executives who want to segue or move into this sector. So actually today, as we are talking and as the results of the digital bank licenses are being released, I thought good to let everyone who are tuning in out there to, I think be open. Not necessarily we need, if you, I think from the hiring perspective, when I meet and speak to many of all these fintech as well as digital banks, I don't think they're purely looking for deep tech talents. Definitely they're looking for deep tech talents, but not everyone is a deep tech talent. I think they are looking at business development, digital marketing, and of course, there are some requirements of the digital bank licenses in terms of outreach to consumers, outreach to retail and SMEs. So I think for those of you who have that kind of background in adjacent sectors, be sectors which are actually fledgling or not doing that well, do consider this as an option. So we are in BFSU, E2I, I believe also SFA and IBF will be working closely, hopefully, with our new digital challenger banks as well as new fintech outfits that are setting up shop here as we grow to be able to get more and more of our local manpower in this exciting growth and new opportunities that they're coming on board.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Patrick. Yeah, I think I have been on a couple of different panels also speaking about talent, and I think like you mentioned, deep tech is required, but actually there are a lot of need for people with the right mindset and skill set. Mindset especially because I think it's a very fast-moving industry. I think the agility is one thing that's actually everyone that's looking out for. So maybe, we don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to still touch on one question and just again open to all. Let's look forward. We know that there's quite a lot of optimism in fintech industry. But in my slides earlier, we talked about this K-shaped recovery where we think that there will be winners and losers. We think that some will turn out to be a lot more resilient. But maybe just as an advice to all the fintechs out there and also to the people in the fintech companies, what do you think will help them go towards the upper end of the K? So meaning that what advice do you have for them so that they can continue to be resilient and emerge stronger from this pandemic?
Yeah, maybe I offer my view. I think while currently in the near term we have this K-shape, in particular is because a lot of the investors are now very cautious in investing. So they focus a lot on their existing portfolio companies. So that's where the going up is. Therefore, a lot of the new fintech companies find it very challenging to get funding. So that explains the K-shape for now. But I believe the medium to longer term prospects of fintech, especially in Southeast Asia, is very good. And then if you look at the whole Southeast Asia, about the market size looks big, right, at 650 million in population, but it's 10 different countries with 10 different cultures, languages, and regulations. What it means is that a lot of fintech companies will need to localize their solutions in each of these markets. So I suspect over the medium to longer period, right, in Southeast Asia, the fintech ecosystem will be more diversified, and there will be room for the fintechs, the smaller fintechs, in the longer tail of things. So I'm rather optimistic in this perspective and this perspective. So I think in the medium to longer term, I think V-shape is the shape that I will see lah. Yeah, but this is just my view.
And before I hand over to Vicky, who, before she says I thought just chime in on this that I think there are two groups of workers, those who are already in this space or in current jobs in the fintech or financial sector or digital space, as well as those who are outside of the space. It could be fresh entrants into or fresh school leavers wanting to enter into this space, as well as those who have been in the affected sectors, who belong to one of those who have been laid off or in fact impacted severely and looking at possible career shifts. So I think there are two groups of workers. I think firstly, my advice to those that are already in this space, I think important to work closely within the ecosystem. So that's why you have SFF. We are in this together. I think it's important to keep the network relationship strong. Keep the network relationship strong. At the same time, also not just keeping the network relationship strong, but also to have that industry network be kept alive and well. I think that's important. At the same time, also for those in the sector or already in the space to really upgrade and pick up some of the new skills as we hear of the various developments. I think there's a big drive towards digitalization, not just smart nation, but because of the low touch economy, as in the low physical touch economy that we're looking at come 2021 and beyond with the next normal. So very important for you all to pick up the necessary skills, know the capabilities, and be up to date with some of this technology, particularly artificial intelligence. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening in that space as well. So take note of that. And for those who are outside of the sector coming into the sector, in fact, BFSU is, or should I say, the Banking and Financial Services Union is in the midst of working closely with our tripartite partners to offer opportunities for traineeships. As you know, there's the SG United Traineeships program for those fresh school leavers. So do jump on the bandwagon if you're not already on it, or if you're exploring. There are various schemes that are available. At the same time, not forgetting those who are in adjacent sectors or maybe perhaps wanting a career move or career shift into this sector to look at the possibilities. I think there are quite a few. We're going to run a few virtual job fairs as well as and as the report says, it's good to know people in this industry because many of them on hiring it will be done through word of mouth and through industry peers and networks. So be part of the industry, be part of the network, be part of this tripartite network with SFA, with BFSU, and more importantly, keep an open mind to these unique opportunities. Because if Hotline will tell you that working in an SME or startup or micro SME is not like a traditional way of doing things. It's going to be it's not that easy. I mean, you really need to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty in everything. So I think it's important for you to stay positive and keep an open mind. And I hope the rest are. I think I lost their video, so.
I'm still here. Thanks. Do we still have Vicky? Vicky.
Hi. Can you still see me or cannot see me?
You cannot see you. You remain as a mysterious.
We're here
Okay.
for you.
Okay, I think just to add on to what Hotline and Patrick have spoken, I think a few things that I think there are two parts that we will look at it. One part is on the company specific. For a company who are looking for to train, needs to continue to stay resilient. One way is that, of course, for your in-employment employees, you have to continue to find ways to reskill them so that they are always on the forefront. As for the newcomers that are joining the company, I think there are a few ways that I think Patrick has mentioned slightly earlier. There are ways that we can work together in order to help you to recruit the talent. One of which is the career fair that he spoke about, but there's also the career discovery day which we actually invite companies such as A Little Planet to come forward to share with companies on their companies and culture to help job seekers make informed decisions before they apply for the jobs. Then there are also a lot of schemes that Patrick earlier have alluded that the government has rolled out. But beyond this, I thought it's good to also share that for companies that are unionized, E2I also administer a pot of funds that support companies in terms of the training to upskill their existing employees that can fund you up to $50,000 to help the worker to defray 50% of the net fee. So I thought this is on top of whatever the government is already supporting. So if a company is unionized, then there's a further help that we can render. As for individuals who are looking to join this sector, I encourage them to be more open. I think the mindset that Wani earlier mentioned is very critical. Today is not about just sticking to your old ways of doing things. Things are evolving quite rapidly. So we urge individuals to step forward, open their mind. If there's networking platform, please go forward. If there are sessions for you to read up about the industry that you're interested to join, such as Fintech, please also do glue in, such as this platform that you are currently logged in. These are all platforms and channels for you to be to readily be attached to the sector and to know what is the new things in town and go for the training that's required for you to do the job better. So these are some of the things that I thought it would be good for you, for individual and company to note. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Vicky. Yeah, with that, I think I'll wrap up our session today. First of all, apologies for the technical glitches. If you want to see how Vicky looks like, you can search her on LinkedIn. But I think the content is the most important. As a conclusion, I think for me, the takeaway as usual is we have so much schemes and support system out there. So be it employer or employee, do reach out if you don't know where to tap on these resources. You have many organizations and associations here, so I'm sure any of us here will be able to direct you to a support scheme that you're looking out for. So with that, I really want to thank my esteemed panelists, so Patrick, Hotline, Vicky, and also the team behind this that has been working really hard to pull this together. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of SFF.
Thank you and goodbye.
Good day ahead.
Thanks,
Thanks, Vicky and Hotline.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks, Wani, Patrick, and Hotline and all. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so thank you to all our panelists once again for this illuminating session. Now to our viewers, we hope that you have gained more information and help from this session. This marks the end of all the sessions from Singapore Fintech Association for today. We hope you've enjoyed the presentations and see you tomorrow.